The Los Angeles refinery is made up of the two facilities called the Marathon Refinery and the Phillips 66, built in 1919 and 1923 about 15 miles away from the Los Angeles International Airport. The Carson facility, known as the Marathon Refinery, processes mostly heavy, high-sulfur crude oil. As you can see, there is a high volume of air pollution being released every day in this location. Located in a lower-income community and with a population of 97% people of color, this oil refinery is a major source of toxicity both on the environment and its people. With 424 acres and over 875 employees, this refinery contributes to both air and water pollution with over 16 million pounds of chemicals released into the air of Wilmington since the year of 2000, according to the EPA. The consequences of exposure to these refineries can result in cancer, developmental and reproductive problems, asthma, and other respiratory illnesses. Also, the refinery produces a high percentage of gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuels, other products including fuel-grade petroleum coke. Continuing on, you can see the large salt domes used for the crude oil and other products. The Phillips 66 refinery in Wilmington releases hazardous air pollutants into the surrounding neighborhoods, such as BTEX compounds, as well as nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and sulfur dioxide. An investigation done by GRIST found that since 2020, Wilmington has experienced a substantial increase in deaths related to the Alzheimer's, liver disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, strokes, and diabetes, which are all illnesses that are known to get worse by high levels of pollution. This discrimination against people of color, working class individuals, and minorities relates to David Pella's statement saying, "The first pillar of critical environmental justice studies involves the recognition that social inequality and oppression in all forms intersect and that members of the more than human world are subjects of oppression and agents of social change." The Torrance Refining Company, created in 1929, has over 600 employees and an additional 300 to 500 contractors working on-site daily. Driving down Crenshaw Boulevard, you can find the Torrance Refinery where gasoline, diesel fuel, aviation fuels, liquefied petroleum gases, coke, and sulfur is refined. Torrance Refinery ships the products through a series of pipelines and even through trucks, ships, and rails. Also, diesel fuel, jet fuel, and liquefied petroleum gases are being produced here. Refineries release hazardous gases resulting in severe damage to our atmosphere. The Valero Wilmington Refinery is right next to the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. Driving through the streets of the Valero Oil Refinery, there is a strong scent of polluted air and chemicals. This site is a clear case of environmental racism because the neighboring houses just a few miles away from the refinery are in a lower income neighborhood. Research shows that socioeconomic inequality is further increased when individuals and families of a lower income, as well as minorities, are left no choice but to live in an environmentally hazardous area. Therefore, we can see how people of color and working class individuals are stuck in the endless cycle of poverty and illness. A perfect example of resistance and activism against the harmful effects of oil refineries is through the work of the Environmental Protection Agency, known as the EPA. The EPA fights for many causes, some being Americans have clean air, land, and water, contaminated lands and toxic sites are cleaned up by potentially responsible parties and revitalized. All parts of society, including communities, individuals, businesses, and state, local, and tribal governments, have access to accurate information to effectively participate in managing human health and environmental risks, and much more. The EPA is able to positively impact our environment and combat environmental racism by writing regulations to environmental laws, funding environmental programs, nonprofits, and educational institutes. Also, they actively study environmental issues and teach others about these issues and ways to help. An important point made by Pello is about the connection between the BLM movement and the lack of clean air. A plan to take action can be developed through more protests intentionally on the streets linking both the BLM movement and environmental racism. Pello describes how racism can kill quickly through police brutality, but we must not forget how racism kills slowly through environmental racism.